Hello, everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Joining me is my newest co host, and also he has tied for the title of most adorable co host and is currently sleeping because I am on baby duty right now, giving my wife a chance to rest, recover, and, well, just get better after everything that's happened and is going on. So today we are coming back around with the DM guide and we are jumping back into fixing D20 Modern and we're up to part 8. I believe that's correct. But we're taking a look at some of the advanced classes. Now, one thing to note with D20 Modern is it's got a ton of advanced classes. And this is where your character's personality, at least with the standard stuff, really starts to come through. Hell, even with the fixes that I've proposed here, this is still where a lot of your character is going to start becoming more readily apparent aside from just roleplay. The advanced classes do a lot to define a character. This is where you begin to specialize and focus on things and get special abilities. So you have things like soldier, gunslinger, martial artist, techie, technomancer, mage, cleric, well, acolyte in this case, um, shadow hunter. So many different options that are just absolutely, well, I'd say for the most part, they're all fairly fun, especially when you're running with a good group. But there are some classes that are just absolutely awesome. I mean, the Shadow Hunter class is incredible. It's a very, very fun class. It's one of my favorites. And my first and probably longest running D20 Modern character, who is still alive, by the way, at a nice, ripe level of 23. um, is took 10 levels, all 10 levels of this particular advanced class, and it's just been a blast. But there are also a bunch that are just absolutely useless. And then, you've got some right in the middle there that are perfectly serviceable, but, leave a few things to be desired. And we are going to be focusing precisely on the classes that are pretty crap, honestly. These classes just are not great. And we're going to take a look at what's wrong with them and discuss why the things are wrong and broken, and then we're going to come up with fixes for them. Fixes will be in separate episodes. This is the introduction, and we are taking a look at the Archaic Weapon Master. Now, on paper, the fluff, it sounds exactly like what you'd want out of Urban Arcana. This is an Urban Arcana advanced class, and this is a character who is focused on using archaic weapons, gaining mastery over them. If I could think of an example right off the top of my head, the Knights of the Cross from the Dresden Files, Michael, and now most recently, apologies for spoilers, but Butters joining their ranks. And this is absolutely a great thing on paper. Mechanically, though, everything falls apart, and it falls apart pretty damn fast. I mean, there's really nothing else to say but to just kind of dive right on into this and dig in and see what exactly is wrong. So think of this as almost like a post-mortem autopsy and look at how we can go about reviving this horrible monstrosity. So to start with, the Archaic Weapon Master, the requirements for getting into this class are a 3 base attack bonus, 4 ranks in knowledge history, archaic weapon proficiency, and weapon focus with any archaic weapon. So longsword, longbow, glaive, um, halberd, spear, mace, flail, axe, any of these things would count. Anything that falls under archaic weapons. When it comes to things like exotic weapons, so in this case, since this assumes a more Western setting, exotic weapons are going to be your more Asiatic kind of weapons, like a katana, technically a naginata, although a naginata is basically a spear. You get the idea. Weapons that are typically foreign to your culture are going to count as exotic weapons. That's a whole nother thing we could get into another time, and probably will now that I'm thinking about it. But let's keep moving right on along here and not let myself get down through any rabbit holes. This class gets 1d10 hit points per level, not bad, especially for a frontline melee fighter. For action points, you get 6 plus 1/2 your character level rounded down, 3 skill points plus your intelligence modifier per level, and your class skill list isn't bad either. You get climb, craft, mechanical, structural, visual, art, and writing. handle animal, jump, knowledge of art, history, theology, and philosophy, profession, research, ride, and swim. Your base attack bonus is not bad, not bad at all. You get a medium progression going starting off at 0, bumping all the way up to a nice +7. Fortitude saves are also on that good progression, starting off at a 2, ending at 7. It's reflex saves and will saves where things really start to hurt, though. You get the worst progression starting off at 0 and ending at only +3s each for these. Now, I could see will saves being low. That makes sense. That makes a certain amount of sense there. But reflex saves being low, especially for a combat-oriented character class, that's pretty rough. I mean, especially with fireballs, explosives, automatic weapons fire, all of these things can really start to chew through a character fairly fast. I mean, especially when you're factoring in that you're dealing with a lot of melee damage as well. Your defense bonus isn't bad, but it's not great either. Starting off at a 1, ending at a +5. It's a solid, it's serviceable, and it's with your armor, and if you have any other classes, like, say, Fast Hero, your defense bonus isn't going to be hurting too bad at all. And reputation bonus isn't bad either. Starting off at 1 and ending at that 4 once you get through all 10 class levels, if you take all 10 class levels, which, going just off of the base stuff, I wouldn't recommend it. But looking at all of this isn't bad. I mean, it hurts that you don't have good reflex saves, so where do things fall apart? Well, I'm sure all of you experienced tabletop RPG players know, especially if you've played D20 Modern at all, but it falls apart in the class abilities. For first level, you get weapon specialization, and you get the weapon specialization feat for the archaic weapon that you have weapon focus for. So it's not great, but it's not bad either. The soldier, perfectly serviceable class, has a similar ability, and it gets by just fine. But level 2 is where things really start to tank. Imbue weapon, and it's one that enhances at level 8, so this is going to take up 2 class levels. You treat the archaic weapon that you have weapon focus for and the specialization as a +1 weapon, a +1 magic weapon for overcoming damage reduction. And at level 8, well, I don't have enough hands to show the 8. This increases to a +2, but it's just the bonus for counting overcoming damage reduction. It does not add to attack or damage. It just overcomes damage reduction. And if they have anything else, like the weapon needs to be silver, adamantium, holy, lawful, any of those kind of magical enchantments, you're screwed. This does not count as that. It only counts as a +2 weapon, and it adds nothing to your abilities other than overcoming damage reduction. And this eats up 2 of your class levels. This takes the spot of 2 other abilities that could have been much more useful. What those abilities could have been, I don't know. If this added into your attack or your damage totals, this would be a pretty good ability to have on top of overcoming damage reduction. It means any weapon that you're specialized with, so say longsword or battle axe, if you pick up those, then you can just go to town on whoever, even if the weapon's not magical. And how would that be useful? Well, other than just that, you can show up with a generic weapon unenchanted, and if nobody knows what your capabilities are, say you're fighting a monster that normally can just shrug off enormous amounts of damage because of its damage reduction, well, you can catch them by surprise and off guard. So that can help to create, well, 1, it's good roleplay, and 2, you can still arguably leverage that as far as luring a target into a fight with you, is if they think you're totally unprepared and then you just imbue this weapon with your power and you're able to start cleaving and chopping through it. Well, that's awesome. That would be great, but it doesn't do that. This ability is just stupid. It's worthless. But moving on from there, the next ability is, well, it's not an ability, it's bonus feats that kick in at 3rd, 6th, and 9th level. Now, this is something that most, if not all of the advanced classes do, so this doesn't hurt it. It's not great, but this doesn't hurt the Archaic Weapon Master. It's the choices out of the list, though, that kind of suck, some of them. You pick a bonus feat that you meet the requirements for from this list. And so you have to have the stat requirements, any class abilities or attack bonus or skill points, or other feats that are required for it. And this includes advanced to weapon fighting, blind fight, combat expertise, cleave, combat reflexes, dead aim, exotic melee weapon proficiency, far shot, great cleave, improved bull rush, disarm, trip, improved two weapon fighting, power attack, sunder, two weapon fighting, and weapon focus. Now, weapon focus being in here, I think is supposed to be a way for you to be able to expand your options as far as what your class abilities apply to. Because if you pick up weapon focus on another archaic weapon, technically that meets the requirements for the class abilities. So, in my mind, that would allow you to get the weapon specialization applied to that weapon as well, and be able to imbue weapon for what that's worth and all the other class abilities. But I'd say you're almost better served just picking some of the other combat feats out if you don't have them, like bull rush or trip, especially if you're using a weapon that you can make trip attacks with, like a halberd. Those things will definitely work for you far better than picking up another weapon focus, I would argue. But these aren't the only abilities. We keep going on from here, and we keep going on to things that just aren't all that great. The next one we pick up at 4th level is Quick Weapon Draw. Now, Quick Weapon Draw, what this does for you here is the master can draw the weapons they have weapon specialization with as a free action. I mean, whoop-de-doo. Something that is easily replaced by a feat. I mean, this is also dumb. Because here's the thing, this only applies to the weapons you are specialized with. Whereas if you just pick up the quick draw feat for free, well, for free as one of your feat options, if you pick out quick draw, that applies to every single weapon. So pistol, dagger, longsword, battle axe, any of these things that you have, if you have quick draw, you'll be able to draw your weapon as a free action. This class ability only works for the weapons that you are specialized with, and it's worse than the feat. It's worse than the feat. That's all that can be said. This ability is also stupid. It's not good. Next up, 5th level, we have Expert in Your Field. This one's an interesting one, and it's, well, the weapon master is considered to be a master of their particular weapon. Go figure. You get your reputation bonus on skill checks, or as a bonus on skill checks relating to your weapon. So if it's something about the history of the weapon, or any esoteric philosophies surrounding the weapon, like take the katana, for example, if you know the philosophies around the code of Bushido or the history of that particular weapon in Japan. How, the forging techniques came down through Korea into Japan, and that exchange of information there is what helped to develop swordsmithing in Japan, stuff like that. That's what you'll get a bonus to. So this is interesting because how it applies is it's hard to say, but it depends on what you can convince your DM would be allowable. So this can potentially give you some interesting face skills. The big limiting factor is how does your knowledge of your weapon really help you get in with other people? I could see that with some historians, with other martial artists, other fighters, things like that. That can produce some interesting roleplay. Limited, sure, but it's something that a lot of combat-oriented characters don't get. The drawback is, though, is that this is an ability that doesn't help you in combat, and we have other abilities that don't do that much for us in combat, like quick weapon draw and imbue weapon. So this overall ends up hurting the class, whereas if we had some other class abilities that were way more useful, like imbue weapon actually adding to your attack and to damage, well, that would be a different story. But this ability hurts now because the other abilities also suck. And then coming up to the next ability, which is Weapon Stun, kicking in at 7th level, because remember, 6th level we get an extra feat. You use your weapon to deal non-lethal damage without the -4 penalty. Only applies to the weapon that you have weapon specialization with. And this is another one where I believe there are some feats that will allow you to do this anyways, not eating up a class ability. I believe the feat progress. I'd have to look it up again. But the point is, though, is that doing non-lethal damage without the -4 penalty, using the weapon you're specialized with. Why not just get a sap? Or something that is specifically designed to be non-lethal. There's lots of options out there that would work. And this is it's just not a great ability. I mean, I can see a few instances where maybe you want to turn the damage into non-lethal damage, but I mean, that doesn't always come up a whole lot, and again, you just have other options, other better options than just having a class ability being eaten up by this. I mean, I don't know. The next ability, which is one that kicks in at 10th level, because remember, 8th level, Imbue Weapon Enhances, and 9th level is a bonus feat, is Increased Weapon Critical. Increases the critical threat range for your weapon, for your specialized weapon by 1, and stacks with other sources. So if your weapon has the keen quality on it, this will stack with it. If you have improved critical, this will stack with it. So this is actually a very nice ability, and I think it's at a decent spot for a 10th level ability. It's just a shame that the rest of the abilities are just so god awful. It's bad. This is probably the only good ability in here. And getting weapon specialization at 1st level, again, it's something that can be done with a feat, but it's something that the soldier class also does. And overall, all of these things come together with mostly mediocre to just bad abilities that really, really limit this class's ability to perform in combat. And combat is what this class is supposed to be doing, but you don't really have a whole lot of great options here, or at least not a whole lot of good enhancements to what it is you're wanting to do. So this class just is not good. It's a very bottom low tier class. Like, I'd say this is probably tier 4, although now that I'm thinking about it, you could probably break this up into 3 tiers maybe, but anyways, I hope I've made my point here about why this class is bad. I've demonstrated that pretty well. Next time around, we're going to take a look at exactly how to fix this class and make it something that is at least tier 2 and something that's going to be functional and be able to keep up pace with other class options like the soldier class, like gunslinger and swashbuckler. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. If you enjoyed today's video, go on down below, hit the like button, let me know in the comments what you thought. What are some suggestions that you would have for this class? What are some things that you like that or didn't like? If you didn't like the video, hit the dislike button as well and let me know. And if you enjoyed today's video, there are going to be a couple more popping up over this way that you may also enjoy. Or if this hasn't been your first stop here at the Gamer's Den, well, why not consider subscribing? Go on down there, hit that subscribe button. You'd be damn handsome and beautiful of you to do such a wonderful thing and become a regular member here down at the Gamer's Den. But with that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night. Good night, Atticus. I love you, buddy.